Doctors were keeping him heavily sedated because they helped keep his brain from swelling. They also tell us there is brain activity and that Proctor isn't brain dead. Doctors are still giving him a 70% chance of survival. Now, while Proctor was allegedly raping women throughout the Low Country, thousands of other men suspected of being the serial rapist were questioned by the task force. I talked to two whose lives were turned upside down as a result.
Like, hey, you guys are supposed to be looking for the real rapist, not me. But then, on the other hand, I felt like all they could do was eliminate, and I didn't mind being a part of that process.
More and more as they were talking with me, I fit the profile. And they said, well, now would you mind giving a fingerprint? So we walked back out.
Dan Beckman and David MacDougall are just two of the thousands of men suspected at one point of being the Low Country serial rapist. David, who is a reporter for the Post and Courier, responded to a rape scene in October, 2 minutes before the task force. That made police suspicious. What did it feel like to be considered a suspect?
I was insulted and kind of astonished that someone would think me capable of such behavior. It didn't feel good.
David volunteered to be fingerprinted, and within 20 minutes, he was no longer considered a suspect. Unfortunately for Dan, who's a news photographer, his experience was more intense.
I had so many similarities to the Low Country serial rapist, such as the blood type, the physical characteristics, the size, the weight, the height, the little scar underneath my left eye.
Dan was questioned for 4 to 5 hours. He was asked where he was on certain dates, and samples of his blood, saliva, and hair were taken. For several days, he was considered a suspect.
I called them about 3 or 4 days later, and they told me that I was no longer a suspect, and they apologized about the whole thing.
Now, both Dan Beckman and David MacDougall hold no grudges against the task force. In fact, they had nothing but good things to say about how they were treated. Jim D.
And Ivonne, I guess the point should be made that hundreds of men were interviewed and talked to by the rape task force.
That's correct.
Okay, Ivonne Marquez tonight from the